All right, by now you've watched my previous video about why you should create video content and about how much time and effort it can save you versus doing traditional blog writing, right? Because it's so much easier, it's so much quicker, and if you're willing to have maybe a 90-95% production quality to it, it's something that you can do in the amount of time it takes you to sit down and then some very minimal editing. If you haven't watched that episode, go back and watch that one. This is part 2 of my 10-part series, and today we're going to talk about types of content. Now, if you're already interested in doing video, or maybe you're already starting to do some video, and you think, I've got my ideas in terms of what that content model is, so this isn't important to me, please stick with me, because I think one of the things that I've learned over the years in terms of how to do video best and for the strategy is it's actually good to have more than one type of video that you're doing. I started off by doing a series specifically targeted to credit unions, for example, and then actually got into creating an online course, but you can easily do any number of other things in video. And I think having some little niches that you create or you carve out for your video strategy can be very useful. Number one, it's going to help you cover more ground because you're not tied into one thing that's either pass or fail for you. You can target different audiences to see what's going to work. And honestly, even the same audience, I think, really enjoys having some variety from the type of content. And that's why today I actually do vlogging through Business Growth Distilled. We're just about to start up our Friday afternoon club, essentially our FAC component, which is going to be this week distilled live. And that one's going to go out in an atypical format versus just putting this onto YouTube and then sharing it on social media. That one's going to mostly be Instagram live and YouTube live. And it's completely different because it's interactive. It's intended to be a live session where we can actually collect questions and comments from people who are watching and kick back, have an adult beverage in hand. So totally different kind of chill way to end the week. So with that in mind, let's talk about a few different ways you can create video content in terms of the format of what you're creating. And I think one of the very first questions that we might get in this situation from a lot of people is, wait a minute, why would I do video? I'm hearing so much about podcasting. Shouldn't I be looking into podcasting instead? And I want you to understand, actually, the CU Daily, the very first video program that we put together a couple of years ago, was a podcast, but it was also a vlog. And those things do not have to be completely different. So what we would do is create a video vlog, and then we would just strip out the audio for the podcast version. So you could listen to it anywhere. We had it up on iTunes, we had it on Stitcher, we had it on our blog, of course, we had it on YouTube. So whether it was video or just audio only depended on where you were actually watching or consuming that show. But otherwise, it could be the same thing. So what I'm getting at is, if you want to have a podcast, if what you're going to talk about is mostly, verbal, so you're not having to demonstrate, maybe not doing how-tos, then it would be very easy for you to make that into a podcast. But I'd still recommend that you try to have that visual interest, because it's not just about the nature of the content, it's about where people like to consume it. So if people, your audience is on YouTube or other social media channels, there's a very good chance that they're gonna wanna focus on the video format. So by giving them that level of interest, you can capture those people, have that much more richness to the content, and still be able to syndicate it as a podcast. We can talk more about details regarding how you actually syndicate to iTunes or to Stitcher or any of these other platforms, and that's going to be one of our tail end in this series. All right, so general ideas here. Let's talk about the types of things you could focus on for your video, especially for those of you who don't really have any idea. There are how-to videos. This is a very big one, and to an extent, the online course that we created is a how-to video. It just happens to be 24 videos long. It's hours and hours, a complete A to Z, soup to nuts kind of program that teaches people pipeline building, but it's still a how-to. So you could either do a very short 10-minute how-to video about some specific tactic, or it could be a very comprehensive strategy-based lesson, like what we put together with that program. Behind the scenes, people love getting behind the scenes access. We have a couple of clients. One of these is PackTech, and they create like waste containment and waste transport materials. It's very industrial. To most people, it may sound not terribly interesting, but I'm telling you right now, what they do is interesting to people far outside of their customer base. And here's how I know. They've been on the History Channel. It's like one of those How It's Made kind of episodes. Took place with them specifically and how they manufacture these things. That type of thing is very interesting to people. If there's any kind of a creative component or a collaborative component or a visual manufacturing component, anything like that, people really dig it. So consider that piece. We can do other behind the scenes work. Could be things like staff profiles, walk around, a day in the life, that kind of thing. And keep in mind, we're not talking about doing a daily episode like this, for the next 2 years, but you could do this one maybe once a month, and it's interspersed amongst other types of content within your vlog. So mix and match these. We could also do testimonials for your customers or clients. Those can be very self-serving, and oftentimes we think that it might be more about prospecting, and it's not something that people would necessarily want to discover on their own and watch on their own. It's more like something you might present just as social proof. But if you do them the right way, that's certainly not the case. You can actually let the customer or the client kind of give their unique story. These things can be very compelling if you let them use their own words, maybe interview them in their own environment. And this will really help people to not only understand the value of what you provide as an organization, but gives them some sort of an emotional connection when they see, hey, your customers, these people are like me. That resonates. I connect with these people. And that's hugely important. Let's see what else. We can do just pro tips. We can do all sorts of instructional content. And I think one of the big areas of pushback that I anticipate getting and probably have gotten in the past is this antiquated mindset where we need to really protect our intellectual property. Let's say you're a law firm and you work with corporations and you want to provide maybe some information about mergers and acquisitions, some advice. Maybe it could be like a top 10 biggest gotchas that we see in M&A deals. So if you're going to merge or you're going to be acquired, what are the biggest risks for you? Where do we actually see these deals falling apart in a big way? You can go into as much detail as you want. And this is really a path or a funnel right into potentially getting people interested in working with your law firm to put together an M&A contract, to do the actual legal behind the scenes. No matter how much information and detail and expertise you provide to me for free through these videos, do you think I'm going to sit down and try to create my own M&A contracts? Absolutely not. All we're doing is providing enough information that we're providing some value, providing some education, but mostly demonstrating our level of expertise so that people will work with us or continue to work with us. And I think this is an important distinction. Think of everybody as a prospect, because it's either somebody you would like to work with or it's somebody whom you're already working with, but even your clients, your existing customers are prospects because you have to continue demonstrating value so that they will continue working with you. So really just think about it from everyone's a prospect perspective. If what you do provides the level of value that you're saying it does, if your level of expertise is so unique, so valuable to people, then you shouldn't have to worry at all about kind of giving away the farm in terms of the content that you provide. When I provide instructional videos like through the Missing Link pipeline building program, I hold nothing back. There is absolutely no intent in that program whatsoever to say, here's just enough to get you very interested, but keep you confused enough that you have to rely on our agency to help you out. Not at all. Because I know that everybody who watches that video program is going to go into one of two groups. The people who believe they can do it on their own and therefore will never see the value, financially speaking, in working with our agency to do it. And those people who say, this really makes sense to me. These people seem really smart. I'd rather pay them to do it. This group over here is always going to be our target audience. This one, no. We enjoy the fact that they're going to get some value out of what we provide, but we understand that they are probably never going to actually pay us to do anything significant. So they're just that, collateral value, not collateral damage. We'll call them collateral value. I just signed up for that masterclass, 1 year of access. It's like $180 and I have unlimited access to the entire masterclass library. These are, if you're not familiar with it, like the biggest celebrities across virtually every category, from Hollywood, filmmaking, writing, science and technology, all sorts of things. And all of these celebrities are giving away all of their best insights, things that they've learned throughout their lives. And do you think that they're really concerned about other people being able to come out and compete or put them out of business? I mean, it's not realistic. What's really going to help you is thinking of your knowledge as being free and open to the world so that you can attract attention and build your brand while understanding that it's your experience or your expertise with that knowledge that makes you valuable, that makes you unique. And that's the thing that a subset of your viewers are always going to be willing to pay for. Let's talk about a few other specific ideas for the kind of content you could pull together. Are you already blogging? If you are, take a look at some of those blog articles and see if it's something that you could actually do as a video format instead of a written format. Keeping in mind that if you do it as a video, you still put it in your blog. You could even transcribe the contents of that video so that you have text on there, which is great for SEO. You don't have to manually transcribe. There are services that will do that very inexpensively. Are you already sending out an email newsletter on a regular basis? If so, take a look at the contents of that newsletter. One of our law firms actually does this. They send out some amazing newsletters. I'd say on a weekly basis, I get these and I read them every time because they have a singular focus. So it's not, here are the 80 things going on with our firm and here's what's going on around the world. It is one topic on each one of these. It is a very timely topic and they tend to be very valuable to me. In fact, the contents of these newsletters are perfect for a video. Take a look at what you're already doing on social media. If it's not video based, then what kind of content are you putting out there? Because this can be very similar to what people might share on a blog or what they're doing in email campaigns. So again, maybe pull some ideas. What are some of the best performing posts that you have on your social media channels? What tends to engage people the most? How can you build on that and make sure that you're doing some sort of maybe slightly longer form video content around it? Maybe you could do some live video as we're doing on our Friday afternoon clubs. Any of these can really kind of provide a good basis because you've got some sort of historical performance to understand what's resonating with your audience. When it comes to current events, it can be a little bit tricky. I would say that one of the more important things here is that you be unique. Talk about something else, at least from a particular angle or spin that other people aren't really covering. Something that's undercovered across other competing channels. And the reason for that is if we're talking about industry news for you, people might already be going to an industry news website or getting it from a publication. And to get it from you is not only completely redundant, but it just kind of makes it seem like you're doing the same things that everybody else is. Now, if you have a very interesting and different perspective, then that can be a great thing to use as leverage to talk about current events. The content that we've created for video over the past couple of years has really varied in terms of style. So in some cases, it's me maybe with a picture-in-picture on the side where I'm doing instructional videos, of course. In other cases, it's been me with Aaron side by side, kind of, it's almost like news style. Talking, being able to banter, bounce things back and forth. Maybe one person plays the expert, one person plays the neophyte. So being able to have one of those kind of represent your audience so you're getting that live interaction kind of feel with it being pre-recorded. The interview style can be really good. This is another one where you have multiple subjects in the video, and that really can do a lot for adding interest. Take a look at, say, Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan Experience, and his podcast, which is also a vlog, so you can see it on YouTube and really get that visual component. It's basically him, almost as a general rule, sitting across his table from whoever his interviewee is, and he's got a different person every time. It tends to be celebrities or very strong thinkers. And to be able to get differences in insights like that is fantastic. Now, these days, it can be more difficult to get two people in the same room. And certainly anybody who's not making tens of millions of dollars from their podcast, it's going to be more challenging from a financial perspective. But you can do these things over Zoom. I've done a lot of Zoom podcasts. And to be able to get that interaction and have that variety from episode to episode to episode, as you're talking to different people and getting those different perspectives really prevents things from drying out as quickly. And it can make it a whole lot easier for you to produce content because instead of having to create it all on your own, you can rely on just some basic questions. A lot of times these are templated questions to some degree. So you ask probing questions, you ask your standard questions, and then you really rely on your guest to provide the meat of that interview. We talked about customer testimonial videos. We talked about behind the scenes staff profile videos, but you could also do customer profiles. So maybe every week you go visit one of your customers or one of your clients and just kind of do a behind the scenes of their operation. So again, it kind of builds some camaraderie or some familiarity amongst your prospect audience so that these people can see that that connection, the commonalities between your audience, your team, your family, and see that value in the kind of relationship that you build. So hopefully that gets the juices flowing. Enough for you to sit down and maybe brainstorm with your team. Feel free to ask me in the comments any questions, and I'll help you come up with some additional ideas. If you need additional inspiration, maybe just kind of look around, pull up some podcasts, maybe for your industry, see what's there and what's not there, see what you find compelling, and just get a good feel for maybe where there's some opportunities within your space, things that are underserved, a hole that you can fill, so to speak, because that's going to be one of the best things you can do. Making sure that you're unique, making sure that you're different. You don't want to be in a sea of similar content within your space. So that's it for this lesson. I'll see you in the next one. We're actually going to dive into the video setup. So talking about environments and ideal setups and how to keep those things simple so that you can get started right away. I'll see you there.